Ideas are the currency of the 21st century. Some people are exceptionally good at presenting their ideas. There is nothing more inspiring than bold idea delivered by a great speaker. Ideas, if packaged and delivered well, can change the world. And what if I tell you some of those techniques shared by world's greatest communicators? Carmine Gallo, author of the book Talk Like TED, interviewed TED's most popular speakers and summed up few ideas in this book, how you can package and deliver your ideas to wow your audience. This video is helpful if you want to speak with more confidence and authority in presentations, or sell your products and services, or if you have an idea worth sharing. The techniques in this book will help you craft and deliver those ideas effectively. The most engaging presentations are divided into three parts. Emotional, they touch your hearts. Novel, they teach you something. And memorable, they present content in ways you will never forget. Let's dive into each one of them. First, emotional. Great communicators reach your head and touch your heart. But most people who deliver presentation forget the hard part. So now the question is, how do you touch the audience's heart and mind both? Well, the best way is to learn the art of storytelling. Brian Stevenson, over the course of 18 minutes, Stevenson held the audience's attention as he started with a story of his grandma who had influenced his life. Let's take a look.
And the only challenge was that she had 10 children. My mom was the youngest of her 10 kids, and sometimes when I would go and spend time with her, it'd be difficult to get her time and attention. My cousins would be running around everywhere, and I remember when I was about 8 or 9 years old, waking up one morning, going into the living room, and all of my cousins were running around, and my grandmother was sitting across the room staring at me. And at first I thought we were playing a game. And I would look at her and I'd smile, but she was very serious. And after about 15 or 20 minutes of this, she got up and she came across the room, and she took me by the hand, and she said, "Come on, Brian, you and I are going to have a talk." And I remember this just like it happened yesterday. I never will forget it. She took me out back and she said, "Brian, I'm going to tell you something, but you don't tell anybody what I tell you." I said, "Okay, Mom." She said, "Now you make sure you don't do that." I said, "Sure." Then she sat me down and she looked at me and she said, "I want you to know I've been watching you." And she said, "I think you're special." She said, "I think you can do anything you want to do." I will never forget it. And then she said, "I just need you to promise me 3 things, Brian." I said, "Okay, Mom." And she said, "The first thing I want you to promise me is that you'll always love your mom." She said, "That's my baby girl, and you have to promise me now you'll always take care of her." Well, I adored my mom, so I said, "Yes, Mama, I'll do that." Then she said, "The second thing I want you to promise me is that you'll always do the right thing, even when the right thing is the hard thing." And I thought about it, and I said, "Yes, Mama, I'll do that." Then finally she said, "The third thing I want you to promise me is that you'll never drink alcohol." Well, I was 9 years old, so I said, "Yes, Mama, I'll do that."
Brian Stevenson said in the TED Talk, "I'm 52 years old today, and I'm going to admit to you that I've never had a drop of alcohol. I don't say that because I think that's virtuous. I say that because there is a power in identity. And when we create the right kind of identity, we can say the things to the world around us so that they don't actually believe make sense." While he shared a story, he touched the audience's heart. But when he said about the identity, he was reaching audiences' minds. Brian Stevenson, the speaker who earned the longest standing ovation in TED history, spent 65% of his presentation telling stories. Stories stimulates and engage the human brain. It helps the speaker connect with the audience, and more likely, the audience tend to agree with the speaker's point of view because the audience is emotionally involved with the speaker. Part number 2. Our brains are trained to look for something brilliant and new, something that stands out, something with novelty. Hans Rosling, is a rock star among TEDsters. His presentation at TED 2006 stole the show and made him an online viral sensation. Rosling's 18 minutes video has been viewed more than 5 million times. Rosling succeeds because, as the title of his presentation suggests, he delivers statistics that reshapes your worldview. When researchers share any data, usually it's quite boring. But he delivers information in ways that nobody has ever seen before. He's a professor of health in Sweden, where he tracks global health and poverty trends. 3 minutes into Rosling's presentation, he brings up a visual slide with that appears to be chart showing random clusters of bubbles. Some are small, others are much larger than the rest. Rosling explains that when he asked his students to define Western world and Third world, they answered the Western world has longer lifespan and smaller families. The Third world is shorter life and larger families. Rosling theoretically debunked the myth. On the x-axis of the chart, Rosling put fertility rates. On the y-axis, he displayed life expectancy at birth. What happened next was astonishing, novel, and fun to watch. Let's take a look.
Now, what has happened since 1962? We want to see the change. Are the students right? It's still two types of countries? Or have these developing countries got smaller families and they live here? Or have they got longer lives and live up there? Let's see. We start the world. And this is all UN statistic that has been available. Here we go. Can you see there? It's China. They're moving against better health. They're improving there. All the green Latin American countries, they are moving towards smaller families. The yellow ones here are the Arabic countries, and they get larger families, but longer lives, but not larger families. The Africans are the green down here. They still remain here. This is India. Indonesia is moving on pretty fast. And in the 80s here, you have Bangladesh still among the African countries there. But now Bangladesh, it's a miracle that happens in the 80s. The imams start to promote family planning, and they move up into that corner. And in 90s, we have the terrible HIV epidemic that takes down the life expectancy of the African countries, and all the rest of the world moves up into the corner where we have long lives and small family, and we have a completely new world.
And the statistic turned boring numbers into enjoyable animation that makes sense of the world. Rosling had revealed a completely new world and completely new way of looking at global population trend. His audience was laughing, cheering, and ultimately intrigued. Our brain contains a chemical called dopamine, and it gets released in happy and pleasurable activities like love, gambling, sex, addiction of any drugs. Dopamine also gets released when people learn something new and exciting, a much healthier way to feel good. When dopamine is present during an event or experience, we remember it. When it is absent, nothing seems to stick. The next logical question is, how do you increase dopamine? It's very simple. Make the information new and exciting, just like Rosling did. When the information is completely new to your audience, or packaged differently, or offers a fresh and novel way to solve an old problem, then definitely you are teaching them something new. Part 3. Memorable. See, you may have novel ideas, but if your audience cannot recall what you said, those ideas don't matter. So how do you make it memorable? Well, paint pictures by using concrete words. Janine Shepard, the injured cross-country skier, painted a picture for her TEDx audience and did not show a single slide or photograph to do it. As she tells the story, Shepard was a member of Australian ski team preparing for the Winter Olympics when she took a bike ride that changed her life. By using evocative and descriptive words, she took her audience on a bike ride. Let's take a look.
As a cross-country skier and member of the Australian ski team headed towards the Winter Olympics, I was on a training bike ride with my fellow teammates. As we made our way up towards the spectacular Blue Mountains west of Sydney, it was the perfect autumn day. Sunshine, the smell of eucalypt, and a dream. Life was good. We'd been on our bikes for around 5.5 hours when we got to the part of the ride that I loved, and that was the hills, because I loved the hills. And I got up off the seat of my bike and I started pumping my legs, and as I sucked in the cold mountain air, I could feel it burning my lungs, and I looked up to see the sun shining in my face. And then everything went black. Where was I? What was happening? My body was consumed by pain.
She was badly injured, airlifted to spinal unit in Sydney, and Shepherd's doctor announced her a partial paraplegic. But she determined to prove her doctor wrong. Shepherd found a new dream to pursue: flying. She earned a pilot's license within 1 year of the accident and eventually became an aerobatic flying instructor. After her TED Talk, she has received emails from people who were inspired to keep fighting through their own setbacks. One person who emailed Shepherd said the video saved her life. One person was thinking of suicide, but after seeing and listening to Shepherd, he said he got a new ray of hope. And it's not because what Shepherd has achieved in her life, but how she communicated her story by painting pictures with concrete words she used. There are two ways we communicate information. One is abstract and second is concrete. Abstract means using very vague language. For example, if you ask your colleague, "How was your weekend?" and he or she says, "It was good," will you remember it after a couple days? I don't think so. This isn't really memorable. Whereas, if you use concrete sentence or words, for example, when you ask your colleague, "How was your weekend?" and he or she says, "It was really good. I took my dog for a walk, and as the weather was so good, he just did not come back home. So we spent the whole day playing outside on the field." Now, will you remember this after a couple days? I think you will remember even after a week. This is memorable because your colleague painted a picture in your mind. Our brain is not meant to process abstract concepts. Even in the sales speech, use concrete examples to put your client in a situation they can picture with their mind's eye. This is much more effective than using abstract words to describe your sales strategy. As I said at the start of this video, ideas are the currency of the 21st century. Your ideas can change the direction of your life, and potentially it can change the world around you. So bring emotions, make it novel, and finally make it memorable. This is Nikhil. Keep speaking, keep expressing. World is your stage.